Dear God, it seems we've all been getting restless, as if the weight of the world was just a part of our checklist. We're waking up in the morning, eating our breakfast, and looking through our phones like they were camera lenses. Scrolling through it so much we don't recognize when time passes. Lord, we need some new glasses to see the world through your passions, and see why you love even the least. Stand the last of us. There's an entire class of us waiting for you to take us up and breathe air into these lungs with asthma. We can't breathe. I mean, we need these moments to think and re-believe. Are you sure it's just our hearts and not something else on our sleeves? We don't mean to think too deep about the words you've given us to read. We want peace from the King of Kings. Is it worth it doing all these things before we're at your kingdom? Can we be done becoming suspects and the victims? And when that trumpet sounds, will many of us still have that rhythm? Cause we're tired, God, and we need you to bring us out the system. When do we get to see your promise of some better days? I mean, that alone should give us peace, but our phones are constantly bothering. We've got that Bible app on, I've been having tapped on it lately. Is that the reason why we feel we're going back into our old ways? This world has gone insane, it's getting harder to focus on your status. It's been tragic how much we've been trapped in this world of noise and static. So much it makes sense why these people are in a state of panic. We need a savior to take us above oceans, farther than the Atlantic. We're reaching for you open-handed, our hands to the ceiling, ready and willing, regardless of the emotions we're feeling. We're ready to play the cards that you have always been dealing, without any fear of whether or not the devil gon' steal it. It's time for Matthew 11 to come in front of the building. Jesus, all of your children are weary and we just want your healing. We've been working hard, but lately it seems like it's hardly working. So when we see you, we know that it'll definitely be working. Listen, it's time to fix our posture for Jesus, the one of life. It's time to hold his presence when he see his holiness in sight. It's time to run with purpose when he comes like a thief in the night. It's time to set the pace in how you'll live for the rest of your life.
Some people would ask me, why Move? Move is the name of the summer conference that we take students to every year. And Move, if I were to put it in a little pitch, it would go like this. Move is all about moments. Some moments in our lives matter more than others. Some of us have moments where we've gotten down on one knee and asked the biggest question we'll ever ask. Some of us have moments where we've held a screaming thing in our arms for the first time and everything changed. Some of us would also point to moments in which we sat in a room full of the Spirit of God and we felt as if God were speaking to us. Move is all about moments. Moments that call students to lives in Christ and into kingdom work. And so each summer we take as many high school students as we can to weeks of Move, because it's full of moments in which God will do just that. And every year we spend some time as a church family going back through some of the content that we were in this past summer so that you guys understand just how powerful these moments are. Over the course of this series, we'll bring some students up on stage who had powerful experiences, moments in which they encountered the Lord and the Lord brought their attention from where it was to where he wants to take them. Move is all about moments. And so this morning, I hope to just set the stage for a moment that we can have together as we begin to talk about rest. Last week, I left our men's class a little bit early, and I hopped in the car. I had to catch a flight. I was headed to a conference out on the West Coast with some other youth pastors. And so I jumped in my vehicle and stopped at a gas station to grab a drink. And dads, I don't know if you're like this, but if I have some drive time by myself, I actually really look forward to that. Usually my time in the car is spent with someone kicking the back of my seat and screaming, and I don't like this movie and whatever. And he's like, please stop. And so if I have some quiet time in the car, I can listen to a book or a podcast or whatever, or just sit in silence. That's good time for me. And so I was looking forward to this, and I grabbed my drink and I hopped on the road, and not 2 miles down 69, I had a little indicator light come on the dash. I don't know what you do when an indicator light comes on your dash. Some of us, we just ignore it. We're like, oh, that's weird. It'll probably go away. Some of us carry a roll of duct tape in the car. We're like, I can fix that and tear off a little piece and put that over the indicator light. We don't have to see it again. But this was the temperature indicator. And so if you know anything about vehicles, you know that there's some sort of heating issue or cooling issue. And so I pulled over and I popped the hood and I checked the coolant. The coolant wasn't low. I didn't see any signs of anything significant happening. I thought, okay, maybe it's a fluke. And I jumped back in and I hop on the road, and not 20 more seconds and it came on again. Now, a much dumber Joel 10 years ago would have been like, let's see how far we can take this baby, okay? But I thought, you know what? I probably need to quit while I'm ahead. And so I called my wife and I said, hey, I need you to take me to the airport. And so I turned the car around, parked at the house, and Bailey ran me up, and my quiet drive turned into a wonderful time with my 4 children. We have indicator lights in our lives. We have a dashboard that reveals to us when things aren't going well. There are things that show up in our lives, and maybe we're not even aware of them until we press pause and take a step back and we say, oh, I understand what that is now. Maybe it's a health issue, one that you've just tried to push to the side, but it keeps showing up. Maybe you've been given over to outbursts of anger, and you're not sure why you're so short with people when you used to get along with everybody. Maybe you can't wait to get away from things that you used to love. Maybe you get home every day and you lay your head on your pillow and you dread the next. There are indicator lights. There are things that reveal to us that things are not as they should be. Are you anxious? You feel heavy? Are you full of sorrow? Feeling overwhelmed? Easily angered? Find yourself chasing pleasure only to find yourself in the same position again? Do you have haunting questions you can't escape? Do you ever take a step back and look at your life and wonder, is this it? Is this all there is? Is this really how it is supposed to be? See, these things, they point to a real problem, and we try our best to treat the symptoms, but really, we need to cure the sickness. The rest of your life. That theme has a double meaning. The first being the rest that we long for, that somewhere at a soul level we crave. There's something that no matter how many hours we sleep or how much time we take away, there's still something within us that aches, there's dissonance, and we don't know what to do with it. There's rest that we long for, and we haven't yet found it. But also, the rest of your life means the remainder of the time that we have here on earth. How we choose to live within that time. In either sense, the question presents itself: what will you do with the rest of your life? It's no secret that Americans are some of the most stressed out, strung out, and stuck people in all of human history. Like, we have a problem. Some terms have been coined in the last few decades. One of them is hustle culture. It's celebrated, it's lauded and applauded, and the average full-time American puts in hundreds of more hours per year working than Europeans do. To simply define hustle culture, we would say this: the belief that working harder or doing more will provide a sense of worth and purpose. Hustle isn't bad. Hard work isn't bad. But what happens when a philosophy bleeds into our theology? When work becomes our God, there's always another sacrifice to make. Preacher Scott Nichols says this: when a good thing becomes an ultimate thing, it becomes a destructive thing. And for many of us, myself included, there are seasons where work becomes our God. When a good thing that God created for us becomes the thing that we elevate to his position. And it has a destructive quality. The proposed solution, it presents the problem. When you buy the line of hustle culture, you end up feeling more empty and worthless, more burned out, more stressed out, more despair. Nearly 80% of American employees report experiencing work-related stress, and most are dealing with disengagement, a lack of motivation, and low energy. Hustle culture mystifies and glorifies the idea of more hours and longer days, but the reasoning does not line up with any kind of reward. There are some payoffs, bigger paychecks, promotions, positions that we've desired, but these things show up and seem to be the affirmation that we're after, yet it does nothing to deal with the problem that's being created. For all of our acquiring and attaining and aspirations that we've reached, we do not feel any more settled or at home. And refusing rest can only go on for so long, because our minds, our bodies, our spirits, our souls, they will revolt, because we're not made for this kind of pace. 55% of Americans don't use all their vacation days. 62% of Americans report feeling burnout at work. Only 23% of the private sector workers have access to paid family leave. Our culture does not celebrate the idea of rest. There is only more, faster, bigger. Despite working longer hours than the rest of the world, Americans rank lower in overall productivity. Overwork is the leading contributor to heart disease, depression, anxiety, and sleep disorders. And a lot of this stems from what has surfaced within the last 20 years or so. It's this idea that we are always on, because there's this digital doorway that's been created where we can access everything we want to see in an instant. These devices that never leave our side. There's pressure to respond to every message, every email, every notification, no matter when it pings our phone. And this has created blurred boundaries in the working life and the personal life. So there's this feeling of never being able to escape this machine. If you were to pause, which is hopefully what we're going to do today, if you were to pause and really think about how you're doing, what would you say? I'm willing to bet that if you have a casual conversation in this lobby or at Walmart or wherever it is, and you ask somebody, even someone who's close to you, hey, how are you doing? The response would go something like this: I'm doing good, tired. I'm good, but I'm tired. That's what we say. We have these go-to lines. I'm fine, just a little worn out. I read somewhere that adulthood is just saying this phrase, but after this week, things are going to get better over and over again until you die, right? Like there's just always this next thing. There's always this next thing that we have to chase or to go figure out, or things that require our attention. Even our vacations have become so elaborate that they're a stressor to us. We don't rest well. We don't find rest in the things that we're supposed to find it in. Where does this come from? It comes from all kinds of places. The need to keep up, the stress of accomplishing tasks, of finances, of performing well, of keeping up appearances, of all of these kinds of things. It all results in being tired. I need a volunteer, and I've already picked one out. He doesn't know this, but he's right here on the front row. My friend Aiden. Would you come up here, Aiden? Could you guys give a hand for Aiden? All right. I've picked Aiden on purpose because Aiden is one of the stronger students that I know. And so I need you to step right over here, Aiden. And this is just a standard backpack. This isn't like a magic trick or anything. There's no rabbit that's coming out of this, okay? I'm going to zip this up a little bit. I need you to grab the backpack by the straps and just hold it out in front of you, okay? And we're going to use this as an illustration to think about the kinds of things that we're trying to do, the burdens that we are trying to carry. Okay, now, if you're a student in the room, your burdens, we've got some rumbles over there. They don't believe in you. Isn't that crazy? This whole group over here is like, this guy can't do it. Okay, come on, we got this, Aiden. All right, if you're a student in the room, one of the burdens you might feel is this pressure to perform. Like there's grades that are expected of you. There's requirements academic. How are we doing? You okay? Okay. There are requirements academically that you just feel this pressure and you don't feel like you can ever escape it. Maybe it's a performance on a playing field or in front of a coach or a parent who has put unnecessary pressure on you to perform in a certain way. And this is just a burden. It sits on us. We feel it. It's weighed down. Maybe if you're an adult in the room, your pressures are a little bit different. Maybe you feel the pressure to provide for your family. Not just being able to keep a roof over your head, but to provide the kinds of opportunities that you want your children to be able to have. And so there's this pressure, and maybe no one else is speaking about it, but you feel it. And you're just like, I want to be able to do this for the people that I love, and so you put this unnecessary pressure on yourself. How are we doing? Face is a little red, struggling a little bit, okay? We're only at 4. One more? Maybe you just feel this need to keep up. Like, keep pace with the people around you. You can bring it a little closer to you. There you go. Okay, now we're in the biceps, okay? Out of the shoulders and the biceps. You feel this pressure to keep up. Someone bought a new truck, so you got to buy a new truck. Someone remodeled their house, so you got to remodel your house. Like whatever those things are, there's just this pressure, and it stacks and stacks and stacks until we're carrying these burdens. But maybe here's the one that we carry the most, and we don't even realize it, is this need to make ourselves right with God. Like there's this, on top of everything else, we feel this need. We feel this need to keep ourselves, I'll take it. Yeah, I could do this forever, okay? No, I'm just kidding. It's pretty heavy, isn't it? There's this need to make ourselves right with God. Like we've got to do all the right things in just the right ways so that God will be happy with us, and we've got to make sure we do those things because we need to make sure God is on our team. And all the other burdens that we feel, all the pressure and stress to keep up and provide and do all these different things, God's going to make those things happen as long as I do the right things in the right order, as long as I'm a good boy or a good girl. And I have this morality to me, and my ethics are good, and my integrity is there. And so if I do the right things, then certainly God will do the right things for me. And that gets heavy. It's a burden. It's a weight. And we carry it around, and we're not even sure what to do with it. How quickly did that get heavy? Pretty quick. You're sweating a little bit. You okay? All right. Hey, can you guys give it up for Aiden? Go grab a drink. Whatever these things are, maybe there's some other things in your bag that you carry around. Maybe it's an addiction. Maybe it's your past. Like whatever those things are, man, it gets heavy quick. This got heavy quick. I'm going to set it down now, okay? What are the bricks in your bag? What are you attempting to carry around that's just become a burden, and you can't even figure out how you would begin to set it down? What are the bricks in your bag? Jesus invites us. Come to me. All you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you, what is it? Rest. Is your way working? This attempt to carry around everything that's on your plate, all the bricks that you feel like this is my burden to bear, is your way working? Or are we just spinning faster and faster and faster out of control? To the point where, man, we might drop this on someone we love. This might ruin our lives because we don't know what else to do with it. And Jesus will invite us to do something different, to hand it over to Him and to find the rest of our lives. Throughout this series, we'll watch some videos that we would watch at a Move conference. You watched one of them earlier, but on our first night together, we watched a sort of an extended video with some teaching about the yoke. You heard that word in this verse, the yoke that Jesus has for us. So Michael DeFazio is the dean of Lincoln Seminary at Ozark Christian College. He's an incredible Bible scholar. He's also an incredible communicator. And so he filmed these videos for us, and we would watch one each day. This one's a little bit longer than the ones we'll watch through the rest of the series. And Michael's going to talk about this concept of the yoke, and then I'll come back up and close us out. Oh, I would say, almost got you, Billy Joe. There's a little moment at the end of these videos in which there's a sand timer. And Michael will take that sand timer and he'll flip it over, and that sand timer lasts 60 seconds. And that's going to feel like an impossibly long time. But this is intentional, because rarely do we watch something and then spend any time considering what we've just watched. Most of us are one 15 to 30 second video right after the next. No time to digest or to think. And so what we're going to ask is that we just sit and be quiet, pause, and consider. And then at the end of that timer, I'll come back.
Welcome. 3, 2, 1.
When I was in high school, I think I could have told my one story from two different points of view. How things looked on the outside, how things felt within. Well, it's not that I was fake or two different people or whatever, it's just, well, there was a difference between the me I knew underneath and the me everyone else could see. The outside me was mostly doing great. When I was 15 years old, my life was about sports. Specifically, basketball. Oh, I wasn't the best, but I was good enough to dream, you know? Hitting step-back threes before they were common. And my dream was to make it big, to win fame and make lots of money playing this game. When I was 16 years old, I won the heart of the girl of my young dreams. I wasn't the only one after her, but I was the one who won. She was pretty and fun and kind. Her friends were my friends, mine were hers. Life was good. When I was 17 years old, I became more serious about my faith. It wasn't that I was a terrible kid before then, but I had done my share of foolish things. And now, I was ready to change. I remember going to CIY summer conference my junior year and drawing a line in the sand. I surrendered all, ready to raise the bar, and I meant it too. When I was 18 years old, I received a consistent stream of accolades and opportunities to lead. I enjoyed the respect of my peers and affirmation from those above me, scholarships, crowns, influence. I was at the top of my world and headed up and on. And again, it's not that all that wasn't real. I really did love my life, and I accomplished some good things. But on the inside, all these good things dwelt alongside, well, burdens. When I was 15, I started to feel the weight of the absence of my biological father. That he had left when I was a toddler, and while I would have told you I was fine, the truth is I often thought about the pain I would inflict on him if I ever met him in the street. When I was 16, my athletic dreams crashed on the rocks of reality. Well, I got injured and that didn't help, but truthfully, I came to grips with the limits of my abilities. I just wasn't good enough. When I was 17, I began to realize that most of my relationships were calculated to make me look good. Oh, I'd do anything for anyone, but I was the star of the show, and I treated everyone else like bit parts in the story of me. When I was 18, I started to wonder if the God part of my life was even real. And not doubting God, more doubting myself, asking if this God-centered identity I had constructed was fact or fiction. And I started to feel the pressure of living up to the standard I had worked so hard to achieve. Let's say I don't win the next award. Let's say there's someone else smarter, holier, more capable than me. What then? Sometimes I wonder if we're going to look back on certain seasons of our lives and all we're going to be able to remember is that we were tired. You ever feel that? Not just physically tired, though that is a thing, maybe now more than ever. We probably don't get enough sleep, but I'm not talking about physical exhaustion. I mean something deeper. You ever feel weary? Maybe not. Maybe you're fine. Maybe you're different, or if you're not paying close enough attention to what's going on underneath, I don't know. You ever stop and look at your life closely enough to notice the burdens, to notice how much you're trying to carry, the pressure to perform, the need to keep up with your enemies or your friends, the demands to be something that you don't know how to be, the burden of doing enough to make mom happy, keep dad proud, please your coaches, or your teachers, or your minister, to keep God off your back. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. I don't know if you recognize those words, but Jesus is the one who said them. Matthew 11:28-30. Now, you might think that when Jesus shows up, his preference is to spend time with people who have it all together. You'd be wrong. He loves those people too, if there are any, but he wants the rest of us around. He wants those of us who admit both ways of telling our story. He came for me, and he came for you. Now, Jesus said these strange words to those around him 2,000 years ago, and since he's still alive today, he says the same words to us. This invitation is not past tense, it's always here and now. But we need to step back for a minute and ask what these words mean, because we don't live in the same world as Jesus. A yoke is a wooden tool people use for carrying heavy loads. It's for large animals to work two at a time. You put this on their necks and you attach it to a plow and they walk through the fields doing work. Or you put it on their necks, attach it to a wagon, and away you go. Now, Jesus isn't the first person to use this as a metaphor either. Other rabbis and teachers and philosophers in his day would describe their program as a yoke. Come, join my group, they'd say. Follow my advice. Do things the way I teach is best. Take my yoke upon you, and you will do better. Jesus says, how's that working out for you? Those yokes that promise wins but produce weariness. Jesus says, take my yoke and you will have rest. Well, what rest? Is he talking about taking a nap? Not really. I mean, naps are good, but that's not really his point. No, true rest, soul rest, is not the absence of action, but freedom from the pressure to perform. Maybe you think following Jesus is about adding another burden. Maybe you think Christianity is about what you do for him. Jesus seems to say it's about walking with him. Now, you might have missed that, so let me say it again. Maybe you think Christianity is about what you do for him. Jesus seems to say it's about walking with him. But how is the yoke of Jesus easy or light? It's a good question. He certainly calls us to do hard things, so it can't be easy in any normal sense. The secret, as always, is in his actual words, because the magic of the easy yoke is Jesus himself. His yoke brings rest, because he is gentle and humble in heart. You know, the reason why you can't trust most people is because most people need something from you. They're trying to be the star of their show, or maybe they're just trying to feel safe in a scary world, and they think you can help make them whole. Maybe they know this, maybe they don't, but they can't perfectly love you because they need you to make them feel perfectly loved. Jesus, he doesn't need you. And don't get me wrong, he wants you as much as he wants anything, every one of you, but not because he's trying to fill some inner hole in his heart or weak spot in his game. No, his heart is full, whole, strong, And because he doesn't need you, he doesn't impose burdens on you or lose his temper with you. Jesus remains in the perfect love of his Father, and that's why he is completely free to love you completely. That's why he is gentle and humble in heart. That's why the secret of the easy yoke is that it's built for two. That's all on you. 2 straps for 1 set of shoulders. This is 2 harnesses for 2 people together. You never do this alone. Hey, Sully.
Hey.
You good?
Let's do it.
That's the picture Jesus gives us of what it means to be his disciple. 1 yoke, 2 oxen, you with Jesus, working at rest. You know, he wants to meet you, even those of you who until now didn't really know why you were here. And he comes to you not to add burdens or increase the pressure or beat you down. No, he comes to all, everyone, weary and burdened, offering true rest. He is calling you to take his yoke upon you and learn from him. You won't stay the same, but his yoke is in its own way easy and his burden light. For he is gentle and humble in heart, and only in him will you find the rest of your life.
He has rest for you. Rest from pressure to perform. Rest from expectations. Rest from confusion. Rest from anxiety. Rest from despair. Rest from the need to accomplish, from stress about money, from regret, from loneliness, from thoughts of suicide and self-harm. Rest from a broken relationship, from inadequacy, from politics, from opinions, from past hurt, from unforgiveness. He has rest for you. And one of the things that we have to strike from our minds is this idea that somehow we have to work to attain the love of God. We can only find rest when we've done enough that God is pleased with us. God does not love you because you're perfect. God loves you because he is perfect. God does not love you because you're perfect. He loves you because he is perfect. And when we get that right, we can find rest. Jesus gives us a few invitations. The first is to come. Come to Jesus. He's the only one who can change anyone, and he's available to everyone. There are no prerequisites. There's not a person in here who's more qualified than another to take the yoke of Jesus upon themselves. The second is to take my yoke upon you. Take him at his word. Taking the yoke of Jesus upon you is to take his word and his work and to do it his way. We miss that last part a lot. We love his word. We're interested in his work, but we want to do it our way. Jesus invites us to learn. Learn from me. If your life is a vine, you need the right trellis on which it can grow. A way of growing and becoming that has some rigidity, but it doesn't feel restrictive. It feels like it's how life is always meant to be. Agreeing, not aligning. Jesus doesn't need you to simply nod your head in approval. He invites you to bow your head in submission. And then we can find the life that you long to live. Jesus invites us today. I have what you're looking for. I have the rest of your life. I don't know if you caught Michael's words there in the video, but he said this: true rest is not the absence of action. It's freedom from the pressure to perform. In his commentary on the book of Matthew, scholar Leon Morris says it this way: it adds up to an invitation to service. Jesus is not calling people to lives of careless ease, but it is for service for which they will be glad. It will be a delight, not a painful drudgery. Friends, life with Jesus is about subtraction way more than it is addition. And so if today you walked into this room thinking the way that I find rest, the way that I get right is to keep adding on to my already full plate. I just need to do more right things. I've got to read more, become more, study more. I've got to get up early. I've got to try harder. I've got to do better. That is not the invitation of Jesus. It's about subtraction, not addition. And maybe what we need to do is evaluate our own lives and say, what burdens am I carrying? How have I filled my schedule? How am I spending my money? How am I evaluating what success is in my life? And maybe we just need to begin to subtract these things and take them out of the burden that we feel like we have to bear, and instead just say, what would Jesus have of me? And what I hope these next few moments are as we sing together is just a moment to press pause. And I would invite you to do this, to just be honest with God. He's not unaware. He's not unaware of the burden that you carry. He's not unaware of your anxiety or your stress or the pressures that you feel. He's not unaware of your fear. He's not unaware that you're upset with him right now. He's not unaware. He knows. He sees. His desire is that you would bring those burdens to him and just hand them over. Say, I don't want to do this my way anymore. My way doesn't work. I want rest. Jesus' work does not rest on you. It's actually an invitation for us to come and rest in him. So what I want you to do is just to close your eyes and to hear these words of Jesus one more time, and then we'll sing. Close your eyes. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Friends, what will you do with the rest of your life?